Okay, so today we're going to be using our finance solver on our calculators. So when you use finance solver, this is when you're using a compound interest scenario. So that would be when you've got reducing balance loans, because the loan you're actually gaining compound interest, then you're making payments. It can also be for like an investment because you're putting it in the bank and the bank will give compound interest. So it's for compound interest scenarios. So make a note of that. That's what you're going to use it for. Now also, you find it on a normal calc page. So you just on the normal calc page that you do normal calculations, and then you press, as they said there, you press menu and the thing, and it's got it there. So if you press menu on a normal calc page, you go to number 8, it says finance, and we want number 1, finance solver. So it lists a whole heap of things that you need to fill in. So we'll just go quickly over here. And so the first one is N. So that is talking about the number of payments or the number of periods. So say, for example, if it was a monthly thing and you wanted 5 months, N would be 5. Okay? So we're going to say N's what your number of periods. You then see an I, and the I is the percentage rate per annum. So we've been calling that R. So the R value goes into that I category. Now you're going to see PV, and PV stands for principal value. Okay, so this is going to be either your borrowed amount or original investment and things like that. So they could be that. Now, in Finance Solver, it's very particular on when if you are borrowing or if you are investing, and you have to tell it whether one's going to be a positive and one's going to be a negative. What we often say is if you've got, say here we've got the bank, yes, and here you are. If you're putting it into the bank, so you're putting money into the bank, that's a sad day. It's leaving your hands. It's negative. Okay? If it's coming back out to you, yay, going to into our hands, so that means that would be if the money's coming out to you. So if you were borrowing a loan, that means you're getting it. You're getting that money to buy something. So that's a good day. Then it's a positive amount. So just down here when I said PV will be your borrowed amount or your original investment. So if I was investing, that would be a negative value because I'd be putting it into the bank. Yeah, and if I was borrowing, that would be a positive value because the bank's giving it to me. Okay, so that's what PV is. Then we have payments. So payments are the same, like you'll have a couple of scenarios. They could be loan repayments. Loan repayments. So loan repayments would mean I'm giving it back to the bank. So it's going out of my hands. So a loan repayment, you'll see a negative value. But if it was like a investment withdrawal, so you know how we've seen that in our scenario. So if we had an investment payment where we're getting our money back in a regular thing, that would mean it's positive. So you can sort of just think about it. If you're putting into the bank, it's negative. If it's coming into your hand, it's positive. And you can think about that. But on our summary sheet at the back, you'll see in the little notes on the side, we have Finance Solver Qs, and it will remind you on each scenario what it's got to be. So we'll have a look at them too. All right, so that's what payment is. And then the next one is FV. So FV is the final value. So it could be, or it's just the value at the time. So if we were finding a certain time period and we want to know how much it's up to, that would be what it is. So we'll see it in examples. So we have final value. And then the last two ones, you see these PPY and CPY. Okay, these two are always the same for us. Always the same. Okay, so you really, all you have to do is work out what your PPY is, which we've been talking about it. So if it was monthly, it would be 12. And when you click it in 12 for the PPY, the calculator automatically flicks the CPY to 12, but you can go in and override it. We don't ever need to do that, but in real life, you may. So what it is, the PPY is when you would be getting, say, you're making payments, and the CPY would be the compounding interest. So we always match them up, but in real life, if you wanted to change it, you can change it. You know, that's in your future if you wanted to keep using your calculator to work out things for your loans and stuff. All right, so let's have a look at this one. So as I said, this little summary here this is on your formula summary sheet. So you'll see little cues like that. So the first scenario we're looking at here, we're doing a compound interest investment. So a compound interest investment with regular additions to the principal. So that means we're adding more into the bank as well. So often when you go through these, what I like to do is I read it and I start writing above it what, you know, the part in the finance solver that they've given me. So Lara invests 500,000. So she's investing, that means she's putting it into the bank. So it's going to be a negative PV. So you'll see me right above it up there. Now, you've seen up here the Q in your little notes, it's telling you it needs to be negative as well. So you can double check. Now now it says it's compounding monthly. So when they told me that, they told me PPY is 12. Okay, he makes a regular deposit of 500 per month. So that one is the payment. And because he's putting it into the account, it's also going to be negative. And up there, and when you look on your summary sheet, when you see the scenario investment with additional payments, you'll see that it's prompting you that they should be negative. And then what you see is when you calculate your final value, the value is going to be positive because that means the bank needs to give you that money. So that money's coming to you, and that's why it's a positive. If you'll calculate, we'll see when we calculate a loan, that'll be different. All right, so what you've got, so into Finance Solver, so off you go. I want you guys to give this a go. So what you do is you press menu 8 and Finance Solver. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to type in, oh, sorry, we didn't finish the question. It says, what is the value of the investment? So that means the FV is the question after 5 years. So, but because this is monthly, you've got it, how many months would be in 5 years? 60. So what you actually can do, you don't even have to actually work that out. When you get up here in the calculator, you can actually type in that box. If you go into that box, you can go 5 times 12. Sometimes I think it's better to do that because you're then thinking about it, yeah? 5 years at monthly. So then they've told me the I up here, interest rate of 5.5% per annum. So I type that one in. I type in the PV. Now because they invested, I need to put a negative. So make sure you put a negative in front of the 500,000. Now they also put extra 500 in, so that's a negative. Now you're going to get to this box. Now this box is going to be what we don't know. So there's always going to be one box that is the question that you don't know. So that's our one. So if you need to go, you need to tab over. You can tab through the boxes and tab through and then make sure this one is 12. Once you've got all the other boxes correct, tab through until you get back to here and then press enter. Now, when you press enter, you should be able to get that number there. And I've left it in blue because that's what I pressed enter. So, boys, on your notes, you don't have that finance solver dump. I've just popped that there. So, when you're doing this in your books, what you want to do is you just want to write out exactly what you popped into finance solver. And in the SACs and also in the exams, they will just table this out as well. And they'll just ask you to fill in and write what you typed in finance solver. So they'll be checking that you're putting a negative in the correct spot as well. And you could probably PPY equals 12. And what I often do is I leave it like, I put a box there and then I write my answer. So this one, they said to the nearest cent, which makes sense because we're talking about money. And so this one would be 0.30. Okay, so to the nearest cent, 0.30. Once you've written out the finance solver, you probably should write like a little statement. So therefore, we write, therefore, the value, you can just say value at 60 is, you know, the 69,200, 60, yeah, that one. Okay, just write a little statement just to separate it from the finance solver connections. And you'll be expected to do that in the SAC. You'll be expected to write out what you just typed in the finance solver and then make a little statement of what the answer was. Okay, so with the next one, this is analysing a reducing balance loan. So once again, you'll see here, if you go to your summary sheet, you'll have a title that says a reducing balance loan, and you'll have your recurrence relation set up, and then over on the right, you'll have this little prompt. So when it's a loan, the PV is positive because the bank's giving you the money to go buy the house or whatever. And so then that's a positive. But when you make payments, you're trying to pay it off so the money's going into the bank and it's negative. So as I said, I've just written there, be really careful with positive and negatives. You have to think about it because you'll get the wrong answer if you don't put it in correctly. Okay, so let's have a look. Andrew borrows $20,000 at an interest rate of 7.25% per annum. So because I've seen he borrows, that's a positive PV, and the interest rate of 7.25% per annum, that's my I, and it says compounding monthly. That's told me that PPY is 12, and this loan will be repaid over 4 years. So they're telling you how long this loan's going to go for. So it's going to go for 4 years at monthly things, and he's going to make regular payments. So because he's giving them into the bank, they will be negative PMT. Okay, now it says for 47 months. So how many months is 4 years? It'd be 48. And this is why they're saying for 47 months, he follows that payment. And we've seen in the previous chapter, remember we have to adjust the last payment to tidy it up. So that's what they're saying. They're saying it'll be 47 with tidied up 48th payment. So we'll have a look at that. So the first question is A. It says, how much does Andrew owe after 3 years? And give your answer to the nearest cent. So what you do is just start writing out, if you write out all your finance solver titles like this, and often if you pop in everything you know so far, often the one missing is going to be the question. So it says how much does it owe after 3 years. So remember this is 3, but 3 years would be 3 months because it's monthly. So we put 3 times 12 up there. And then the I is 7.25. The PV was a positive because he borrowed. And then he's paying back 481.25. So that's a negative. The final value, that's what I want to know. I want to know what does he owe at that time. And PPY is 12. So I've tabbed through, I've got all of them, written all those things in. I get back to this final value and I'll press enter. And you should see we get this number negative 5,554 and 36 cents. Why is it negative? We're finding the value after 3 years. Why is it negative? He still owes the bank, doesn't he? So the question was, how much does he owe? You don't say owes negative amount. So we would have to write a little statement here, and we'd have to say he owes the bank at this stage, and this is where we'll change it to 554 point, I said to the nearest cent, so 36. So you have to write just that little statement out, because then that shows your understanding of the scenario. Don't write negative. You need to also, you write your finance solver, but then make a statement of what he owes. Okay, so then in question B, it says, what is the final amount? So the final amount that Andrew must make to fully repay the loan within 4 years, which they can helped you out there with 48 months, round to the nearest cent. No, yeah. So what I want you to write, and this is because this is your notes booklet, I really want you to write that here. We're going to write a big little statement. This is the way I want you to find final payment. There's a couple of different ways, but this is the best, I would say. So for final payment, what you're going to do, always go to the end of the scenario time period. So in this example, so you always go to the end of the scenario's time period. So say in this little example, that would be n equals 48. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look at the final value. Oh, sorry, that's a bit messy. The final value number. Okay. So what we do there, so that's what we've done. So you can have a look here. So I've typed into, it would have been 4 times 12. So I got the 48. I've still got the interest rate. I've still got, now he borrowed 20,000, so that's positive. He's still making those payments. And then if he keeps on doing that for the 4 years, we find out the final value. It's not exactly 0, is it? So we have there a positive FV of I'm going to round to the nearest cent, 0.11. Okay, so what does that mean? Positive, does that mean I owe the bank or the bank gives it to me? The bank gives it to me. So therefore, my last payment, I don't need, the bank doesn't want to owe me 11 cents. So they're going to say, all right, now your last payment, sorry, just going to move that up. Your last payment can be what you did. It can be the normal payment, but you can minus that 11 cents because we don't want to owe you that. So when they do that, your last payment ends up being 481.14. Okay? So if it was a negative, what does that mean? That means I would have owed the bank, so what would I have to do with my last payment? I'll need to add it on because I need to give them a bit more. Okay? Okay, so we're using Finance Solver in an annuity. So remember, a traditional annuity is that you invest your money into the bank, which is why PV is negative, and then you get a wage. To make withdrawals on a regular basis. Because the withdrawals are coming back out to you, you can see payments are positive. So let's have a look at this scenario. So Charlie invests $300 500,000 into an annuity. So straight away, I know that's a negative PV. He's putting it into the bank. Paying 5% per annum, so they always give me the I, and compounding monthly, so I see PPY is 12 over the next 10 years. So you know there that the full loan was 10 years. So because it was monthly, even if you want to write a note, the full investment is going to last, this is not a loan, is going to be 10 times 12, 10 years of monthly. Okay, Charlie receives a payment, so because he gets that, that's going to be a positive number each month. So it says find the final value the value of the investment after 5 years. So here I've gone into Finance Solver. So if I was writing it out, I've got N. I would have done, because it was 5 years, I would have said 5 times 12. And once I press tab, you'll see it flicks to 60. I just think it's better to do that because you get nervous and you stuff up your times tables. So paying 5% interest, the PV, you can see I put negative 300,000. Yep. The payment, now he's getting those payments, so it's a positive. He's getting 3,082 a month out. And then FV, that's the question. And if you wrote PPY, you knew that was 12. You can see that's the only one missing. So you know that's what you're going to find. If you know the final value is your question, that means somehow you can get all the other information. So sometimes it might not be so obvious, but know that you can get it. If they're asking for one of them, it means you must be able to find all the rest. Okay, so we do that, and you can see that this is a positive number, and it's a positive number because the bank owes you. It's your money, The bank, it's your investment, so it's going to give you back. So how much is the final value at 3 years? So I just like to write V60 just so I'm remembering. So V60 would have been 100, what was that? 168, 612 point, it says to the nearest cent, 25. Just be careful. Sometimes they don't say cent. Some say they say to the nearest dollar. Sometimes they say to the nearest 100. So that means you just go to the 100th value and you go to the nearest 100, So you look at the tens. If the tens is 5 and above, you round. So be careful. You'll see that. So just make sure you're reading. Okay, find the final payment of this annuity. So once again, we're going to do it like I said. Final payment, we are going to go to the end of the scenario. So final payment, we're going to do N, we're going to do, which it was 10 years, so 10 times 12. So that's where I've done that, 10 times 12. I've got all the rest in, and obviously we want to know what the final value is at that situation. And when we do that, we have a negative $5.36. So if it's negative, negative means we owe the bank, So negative owe the bank. So therefore my last payment, or the last payment in this scenario, he wouldn't have got the 3,182. He has to have $5.36 less, because if he takes that full amount, he'll owe the bank. So they're just going to adjust that last one, 3176.64, and there's my last payment. Okay, so that was the question, to the nearest cent, which we've done.